Hi, my friend, Sam Villa here. I have to say how excited I am to be here with you today at Extend. Now, this particular shape that I'm going to be working with is going to be all about long layers. And if you know with extensions, it's all about them putting all that hair in, and please don't cut it all off. So let's talk about how do you create long layers. Simplicity is today's brilliance. So I want to walk you through a real simple way in which to do it. Now, a lot of times when cutting extensions, we'll cut with feel, visual and feel. Now, visual and feel is great, but I also feel you need technique. So I want to start first with the length and establish a very soft edge. Allow me to share with you a technique that I call cross-hatching. Our goal is to end up with a long angle into the front, some long layers, and then you're going to see how we're going to finish it at the end. Let's get started with first the length. Now take a look at the visual blend now that you can see. You can almost tell, if you just tickle the hair, you can tell where her natural hair is and then where the extensions are. So I'm going to be taking this length up to about where our length is, yet we want a very, very soft edge. So we're going to work first with a blunt shear. Now, it's about the integrity. You can work with a pair of texture shears, you can work with a razor, or you can work with a blunt shear. It's so important that we understand the limits and capabilities of our tools. Just like a fashion designer understands the limits and capabilities of fabric, we need to understand the limits and capabilities of the fabric we're working with and the tools that we're working with, the limits and capabilities of each. If I work with a razor, I know I'm going to slice the hair. Any action that I work with a scissor, whether it be a texture shear, a blending shear, or a blunt shear, I get a blunt action. So it's all going to be about the angles. So we're going to start with a large 7-inch dry cutting shear, which happens to be one of my favorite. We're going to cut dry, not wet. Now, dry cutting is a visual exercise. It's going to allow me to immediately see the visual edge in terms of what we're working with. So what kind of perimeter do you want to create, Sam? Thanks for asking. I want to create a perimeter that's a little bit more oval. Now watch how I'm going to make this real simple for you. Let's understand that even if you're cutting with extensions and that natural hair, we have to be aware of how we're elevating the hair, how we're lifting it, how we're moving it side to side, how we're over directing it, and the shear angle. Listen to what I just said now, the shear angle. The good Lord gave us 2 of these and 1 of these. As a hairdresser, we need to use these more than we use this. So listen, my friends, with intent and purpose, and I guarantee you're going to walk away with some nuggets. All right, so let's go after our length first. So Sam, since you want this oval, what are you going to do? Are you going to visually carve an oval in? No. What we're going to do is we're going to simply take the back and we're going to simply divide the back down the center. Now watch this action with the comb. When you're working with a comb, I choose to work with a wide tooth comb and a large comb when I'm working with extensions. And the reason being is because I don't want a lot of tension, so I don't need a regular cutting comb. What we want to do is the angle of the comb is critical when we're combing. Watch how I'm simply going to take it at an angle where it's almost flat. Now I comb, once I get past the round of the head, I turn and I comb normal. If I keep the angle stiff, straight up, out, 45-degree angle from the shape of the head, what happens as you comb down, you're going to catch your extensions. So once again, a learning point that I want you to capture here is just simply how you're using your tools. Remember, limits and capabilities of the tools. So I know that that's going to be my length. Once again, just tickle, and you can just see where this natural hair is. That's her hair, where it lives, and you can see where that is. I'm going to bring that length up. Now here's what we're going to do. Let's start with a center section. Okay, now once I got this center section, watch what we're going to do. We're simply going to pull all of this hair to the front, and we're going to cut a horizontal line. Now the 2 most symmetrical lines in society that are easy to maintain balance are horizontal and vertical. Once you throw a diagonal line at me, I start to lose my balance from one side of the head to the opposite side. So I'm going to cut a horizontal line, but because we brought the hair to the front, when we take it back to the back, watch how it's going to follow diagonal. Remember, simplicity is today's brilliance. Okay? I'm going to have her hold her head straight up, and look how I take the comb and place it right underneath her jawline. This tells me that this is how she walks around in her world. So by doing this, that allows me to keep that hair in its natural falling position, rather than having me look down or look up. So be aware. It's so important we understand the canvas. The canvas is the head shape. Understand the canvas, the fabric, and the tools, and you're on your way to success. Now watch this. When I comb this, I'm not going to comb just on top. Watch how I'll take the comb, reverse it in my hand, and once I have that, simply take the comb and lay the hair horizontal in the comb. See how I've done that? So now that ensures this stays flat. Once I'm here, watch what's going to happen now. I'm going to come right to that length, and I can visually see that length. Use your comb to press that hair in, and look at the contrast I have. Blonde on black. If I'm working with a dark level of color, I'm going to move to a white comb. If I'm working with a light level of color is this beautiful blonde, I'm going to work with a dark comb. Why, Sam? So I can see the contrast of the line in relation to what I'm cutting. Now watch this, crosshatch. So I'm going to come in, 7-inch dry cutting swivel, which I like to use. You'll see why in a moment. Now I'm going to come in. Watch how I'm going to come in. Look at the angle this shear. Remember what I introduced you to. One of the things I want you to walk away is the angle. So now watch how I'm going to crosshatch. Then I move the shear over, I crosshatch again. Look how I'm creating points. Okay? Now cross-hatching, this is something I figured out when I had my portrait done in the streets of New York. I watched the artist take the canvas and he drew diagonal lines one direction and diagonal lines the opposite direction. I go, why are you doing that? He said, I'm doing that because that'll help me to center your eyes and your nose. So I just took the diagonal line concept that he did. Now watch what I'm going to do. So far I've cut diagonal this direction. This direction, this direction. But if I leave it in that one direction, that hair is going to have a tendency to flip this direction. So I want you to just simply flip your shear over and come back the opposite way, opposite way, opposite way, opposite way, opposite way. Now what I've done is I've cut a series of points, 2 angles that do this. Don't release it. Here's the major part of the trick here. Go back to your horizontal comb, palm of the hand goes towards the body, turn, and fan. Now the reason we're going to fan is because we can visually see how much weight we're going to take out. Watch. If I don't fan and I see this, I'm going to get aggressive and I'm going to take probably way too much out. So if I do it this way, this is how the hair is going to fall. Watch this. The hair doesn't fall in this width. Watch when I release that. Look at that. Look how it fell. So what I want to do is by fanning it, you're going to be able to visually determine how much weight you're going to take out. Now, watch. As I go through, look how this shear is parallel to the floor, and look at the grain of the hair. It's parallel to the floor. Now I open and close, and watch me just simply move the fan to the shear. You see, if I move the shear, now the shear is at a diagonal, then you're taking off length. We want to leave this halo of length, but we want to extract weight inside. So make sure that what you're doing is shears horizontal, parallel floor. Look how I just open and close. And notice when I rotate the fan, see how the hair all stays parallel? Now watch this, guys. So Sam, what's the goal here? Thanks for asking. What I want to do is I want to make this length look like it was cut about 2-3 weeks ago. Okay, that's the goal. Now watch when I release this. And if I don't have enough, I'll go back and do it again. I'm not here to say I'm perfect. Learn by your mistakes. It's only a mistake if you don't learn from it. If you learn from it, then it's no longer a mistake. Watch how soft this edge should be. Do you see how I'm getting that softer and softer? It's not just a blunt line. Now, once I see that, remember what we said, dry cutting is a visual exercise. It tells me if I need to go back in and release more, which I'm going to do. Notice the comb, once again, horizontal. Lay the hair horizontally in it. Fan that and come through. Now with a 7-inch, look how deep I can go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go deeper into that and just get a little bit more aggressive. What do you mean aggressive, Sam? I'm going to open and close my shear just a little bit more so that I get that edge. Then I'm going to show you some more tricks in terms of how to even soften that edge a little bit more. Now look how that looks. See how that doesn't look so hard of a line. Diffused edges. It's a blending effect. I want a visual blend. I want a seamless effect in the edges, anywhere on that head. Okay? Now we're going to go back to the opposite side and do the same thing. What makes it easy to match is the fact that when you swing this to the front, now you can see exactly where your guideline is, and you're going to repeat the same procedure. Okay? Now she's got some hair up here. You can see that's previously cut over on the opposite side. That's going to be my starting point for that side area. Let's stay right now with our perimeter length. Okay, going through once again, visually watch. You can see look how I'm using my comb so I can just go where that length is, but I need to go just slightly higher with my hand. Why? So I can come back in and have an extension of that length. See how I'm using extension of it? Meaning that my shear extends the length based upon where my hand is placed. Okay, once I'm there, I turn the shear the opposite way and we come in opposite way. Opposite way, opposite way. Once again, cross hatching. So you've got from short to long, from both sides. And it's all about the angles. Going to the white teeth, come back in, watch me fan. Look how deep I am when I fan. Now look at the weight. And you could see visually when I finished that opposite side how much weight we had taken out. Shear stays stable, fan moves. Okay, let that fan move. And make sure you are parallel with that hair. Okay. So what we're doing is, when you can see, look in the black area here, you can see negative space, negative space, negative space. Where the hair is, that's positive space. So where you see more positive space, that's where you want to place your shear in. Now we come through, and you can see how I just come through. Look at the soft edge that I've been able to get. Now watch what's so cool. When we bring this back, and we turn this back, and I bring her hair back, I should have a little bit more of an oval shape to this. So you can just start to see that. Anything that you get that you feel you need to clean up, just simply come back in and clean it up. And look how it's just a soft oval. It's not a steep oval that I'm looking for. But what I love about it is that it's got that degree of softness. Now, come back in at this point, when you've got it, you've got that basicness in it, come back and see where do you need to release a little bit of an edge or a little bit of length. Remember, adjust the shear angle. Look at that, slightly on a diagonal. Why, Sam? I'm just releasing the edge that I saw in this one particular area. And then take a look at it, guys, in terms of when you look at it. Let it fall, collapse out of your hand in terms of seeing the degree of softness. Visual exercise, cutting dry. Sam, do you ever go in and do you ever cut some of these things wet? I think if I want a little bit more control, then I'll go in and I'll cut wet. If I want a little bit less control, then I'll come back in and loosen my mindset. And that's what I love about dry cutting. It just loosens up my mindset. If you want to shoot a shape that's loose, it's so important that what you do is you have to have a loose mindset. I can't be so technical. If I'm too technical, then I'm going to be going in twice as hard to soften and get that texture, that degree of softness that we're looking for. And I think what's so important, guys, is volume, texture, and movement is something you want to really achieve with the extensions. Now, all of a sudden, take a look now. Now you don't see that blend happening anymore, that non-blending happening anymore, where it was her hair and the extension. Now it's time to go in and work on the side area. Now I like going to the side area on my necks because this tells me what's happening to the side. Remember, the front is fragile because that's what they see. So I want to go in immediately after I've established the length. She's comfortable where she sees the length. Now go in, and your next set of comfort is that side area. So now the side area. What's most comb the hair down its natural fall. Now, Sam, if the hair was fine and I put in extensions and I'm afraid that I'm going to go in and I'm going to take that fine, I'm going to create more fineness, take the density away, is there something you would suggest? Yes. What I would recommend, if you have that genuine concern, I want you to take it right just past, maybe about a ½ inch past the hairline, I want you to take a zigzag section. Now what I want you to do is just layer that zigzag section, leave this perimeter length alone. Then come back in and just blend that. So it's a great way to go in and do that. Watch what I'm going to do. What I want to do is I want to figure out where is her hair and where does the extension start. And as I lift, I can see. So I know I can go in and I want to match this hair to that. And that still leaves all of her length underneath. So I'm not concerned about that. But the top is where I really want to get a visual match. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this hair, I'm going to bring it way over. Now look how technical in this area I'm going to get. And I feel that the technical side is so important. So what I'm doing is I'm taking just her hair, watch the comb again, and this is just a great habit to create. Just lay it flat once you get past the head turn. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to figure out, there's her short piece. I can see where that is. Once I'm there, now all I'm going to do is watch how I'm going to take a swivel. Okay, it's the mechanics. All I'm going to do is keep, and I'm just going to swivel down. Look how my arms stay straight. So I'm not putting myself in an awkward position. So I find out where's that shortness begin. Once I see that, look how I'm just dropping the elevation down. What's so important, guys, is keep the grain of this top area, keep it the same. Meaning I'm not combing here once, here twice, and over here. I want to keep that grain in the same position. Pick up some of the opposite side that she has, and you could use that as a starting point as your guide. Now watch what I'm going to do. Once I'm here, look how deep I am to the shear, and now all I'm going to do is just tap. I'm not really sliding. I don't want to slide because her hair is compromised, so meaning that it's blonde, and it's that blonde. I don't want to fray it. So what I'm doing is I'm just going in and just tap, 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 tap. And I'm looking for a soft angle, guys. What I don't want is a strong line here. This is what I mean by relax. By elevating it, it's going to give me that strong line immediately. So once again, I'm working on this face frame area. This is going to do two things. Number one, it's going to layer some of this back area because of the way that I'm combing and where I'm combing it to. And I'm going to get that perimeter angle all in one step. So here's what I'm not doing. Taking a section, cutting a diagonal line, then coming back and layering. I'm trying to get both of those movements to happen at once by going in and using this technique. So I'm over directing and I'm visually cutting in my angle. And look how soft I am cutting that angle. Then you can just start to see that angle. When it comes back, watch when it comes back. Anytime I need to go back into it, we'll go back into it. But you can just start to see how soft that angle is. Now, here's what I mean by, if I want to go back into it, watch what I'm going to do. I'm simply going to stand behind. Look how I'm taking the comb. Wide teeth of the comb come in. Look how I lay that hair inside of that. Look at my hand. I come down to an area where I think I might want a little bit more of an angle here. Now come through, come in between the head and your hand, and now just come through. Now remember, I'm not sliding. I'm just talking. So it's this. I talk, talk, talk as we walk down that angle. Okay? And you can just start to see how I'm getting that face framing happening. Once again, just going where I left off, seeing where do I need to continue that angle, placing the shear. And I'm very light with the shear. I'm not being heavy-handed at all. Okay? Excellent. There, I love that. Okay? Now go off to the opposite side and we're going to create the same thing on the opposite side. You can just start to see that angle. What I don't want to do is I don't want to get too much into this. This is that side area where it tends to be a little bit more fragile. Okay, let's go to the opposite side and watch how I'm just going to lay that comb on top, float down. Once I'm passed around to the head, I'll go through and I'll lay that comb flat like I normally would. I also like to just push this up, and you can see from a top view how it basically found the front and the back area by simply pushing that up. Okay, now once again, let's go to that top. I'm looking for her hair. Okay, this is all her hair right here. Okay, now watch how I walk to the opposite side. I find by walking and cutting this on the opposite side, it makes it a lot easier for me to get to this angle. Okay, look at the comb, once again, flat on top and turn. Flat on top and turn when I'm past that head shape. Okay, here's that short piece. There it is there. We're going to use that as a visual guide, as a starting point, coming through. And remember, relax. Okay? What's most important in a haircut like this is balance and function. Okay? Balance and function. Not everything has to blend in today's world. So it's really important. What we've discovered is we've discovered this whole idea of texturizing hair. And by texturizing hair, what it does is it allows us to go in, release bulk, release weight, create volume, create movement. But it's about understanding where the hair lives in terms of determining how much hair, how much density to take out. Now once I've got that angle, now I come back in. Watch how I'm going to move her head position so I can get to it. Do me a favor, my friends. You're there 5 days a week, 4 days a week, I don't know. But you're there quite often, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, I don't know. They're here for one visit. Now excuse me for saying this. Put the client in an uncomfortable position before you put yourself in an uncomfortable position. It's about you lasting in this industry and the ergonomics. Remember, they're only there for a short period of time. Okay? It's all about setting up the client. Like, you know, before we went through and we started talking, we talked about the idea of what it was that I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it so that she's comfortable and she has an expectation in terms of what's going to fall on the ground. Now, let's just take her head down, and now you can just start to see that angle that I'm getting. A lot of times, bring that head down so that some of this back crown area cascades over that. Okay? And once again, just really working on that visual front area. So first, natural fall, bring the head down, let it cascade over, and once again, do a third check on the angle. Okay, looking good. Now to the opposite side. Now once we've cut the side area, we're going to move into another area. But make sure you have, look at, see how soft we've got that? Make sure you've got your side area really good first before we really go in and start blending. And you'll see what I mean by blend. Now we've cut our edge, that perimeter edge. We talked about how to do that. We've cut the side area. Now let's move into an area where it's important we blend. So now what we want to do is I really want to put some layering into this. But I really think it's about long layers, and you're seeing if there's number one request in a salon, the number one request when it comes to design is layers. The number two request is trim my length. The number three request is a bob. So the bob is taking a back seat, and it's about people now coming in wanting layers. So let's talk about that. With extensions, what's so important is obviously a visual blend. So I have to discover where is her hair at, and where do the extensions start and where do they end. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get a visual blend on the top surface. So focus on that top surface. Put the comb down. It's one of the best ways to do this, guys. Now I'm going to continue to work with a 7-inch dry cutting shear, but watch what we're going to do. Really just come through and first of all, make sure that hair is in its natural falling position. Sam, what do you mean by natural fall? What we mean is comb it the way it grows, then once it hits that parietal edge, gravity takes over and comb it down with gravity. And then remember what I've been teaching you, talking about keeping that comb flat till it hits the round of the head and then comb straight down. Flat, and then down. So now that's all I'm doing. That's natural fall. Once I have that hair in natural fall, then I want you to work with your thumb and your index finger. And I want to start in center back, okay? Center back and use your fingers. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my fingers to determine, there's my sectioning. So there's 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to take everything else away. That's my sectioning that I want to work with in this particular center back. Now once I have that, find it again. Just go in and just rake it. Okay, so I'm going to start in the center. Now if I feel, Sam, it's so thick, look how I'm going with 3, go in with 4. See, now I'm going to have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections to work with if I want, which narrows the sectioning down. Well, Sam, what's this based on? It's based on density. So the more hair thickness I have, the more fingers I'm going to rake with, the more separation I'm going to have. The less density I have, then I might go in with 3 fingers and not 4. Okay? So we're going to go in with our entire 4 fingers. Okay? I'm going to start right in the center. So see, I just lifted this center up. Now look, let's give you a profile view of this. And what I want you to watch is, notice where this is her hair on the top, okay? And then this is the extension. So I'm liking her hair. Look at the density of that hair. See how this is very visual? So I don't want to start up here. And that's also density and the degree of length that I have. So I like to read it. I like to just push it and see where it bends. Where it bends, or where her front layer, if she has a top layer existing, you start there. Now watch what's going to happen. Look how I'm going to come out, and as I cut, I elevate. By elevating, it brings the hair to me, but what it does is it maintains the length towards the bottom edge. If I tend to cut down with gravity, I tend to take more hair out. So remember, with extensions, less is better. You can always go back in and take more. Okay, now watch again. That was that center. Okay, now I'm going to move to the outside. So I've got 4. I'm going to move here. Look how I just lift with my hands. Look how when you look at this, let's just grab a comb so you can really see this. So Sam, when you lift this, even though you put the comb down, when you lift this, do you comb through it sometimes? Yeah, because watch. This is going to give me a good read on what's her hair. Look at what's her hair and where I need to get aggressive. But right now, focus on your top blending visually. So we're going to come back through, and I can see where I started, and I come back through. Now elevate. Look how I walk and elevate. Now watch how that bottom, see how that bottom drops out? Now watch. Let's just tickle this, what we've cut. And this is, once again, dry cutting, visual exercise. Take a look at the layers. See how it's moving? See, I want to see that. I just want to start to see that blend starting to happen all the way down. Okay? I should have one more on this side, which is right here. Okay, so see how it's technical, how I'm using my fingers to create that separation? Here's what I'm not doing, just picking up hair and just cutting it. Cutting by feel, let's just talk about that. Cutting by feel requires time. Okay, if I have a system or a technique in mind, then I know exactly where I'm going from A to B to C to D. But if I cut by feel, you're cutting the same section 2 or 3 times. So by sectioning this way, it gives me a little bit more technique in terms of creating a good visual balance with my layers. Okay, now to the opposite side. Okay, once again, excuse me, I'll go right-handed for you here. Okay, now I've done those, I can even feel it. It's amazing, guys. Texture, all visual and feel. So when I run my hands through it, good density. Oh, extreme density. So remember, this is what I mean by, there's just no way that we can cross-check this. This is what I mean by balance and feel, understanding how that works. Okay, give you a 3/4 view. Okay, let's go here back to 4. My center, or just feel, you can almost feel, I can feel it. Okay, so I'm going to go right here, start there. And then I know I've got 2 more to go. I got a comb in my hand. I'm finding I'm going to use the comb once I pick it up with my hands. Okay, and I'm looking at that hair where it starts. Look at, there's that short piece. So that's where I'm going to start. And then don't worry if you start exactly at that. Mix it up. Come up above it. Next one, go below it. Next one above it. That's going to give you more kind of seamless kind of graduation or layers, guys. Look how I elevate once again. See, by elevating, you got to get this. By elevating, that underneath drops out. And if there's anything, that length, that exposed length is on the underneath. Okay, liking that, really liking that. Okay, again, coming here. Wide teeth of the comb. Look how, develop a touch. So important you develop a touch, especially with these extensions. I'm not heavy-handed. I find if I get too heavy-handed, then what happens is you're just really affecting the longevity of the extension itself. Okay, now here's something else I like to do. I like to just really just scallop that. Just scallop. If you notice, I'm just kind of, not slide cutting, I talk with the shear. Open and close, but I kind of talk and move as I go through it. Just gives me a little bit more of a softer edge. Always, always tickling. Almost after every section I like to tickle just so I can visually see that weight and that movement that we're creating. Ooh, running your fingers through it just like I'm doing, guys, really tells me if that's just way too thick in there. Okay, look how I just scallop. Okay, elevate. Let that bottom drop out. Liking that. Okay, my last section. And then watch how I'll move into the ends after this. Sam, if there's any area that you feel you need to really be aware of, what would it be? Coming out too far to the ends and taking off the length, number 1. Number 2, going into that side area and over extreme layering it so it becomes so thin and so fine and you lose it. Okay, look at the texture here, look at that. Now watch the side area. Now I'm going to move into my side area, but watch how I have to be gentle. Look at the side area. You can almost visually see the weight. Look at that move. Now watch the side area. See, you can see how it's not moving. Now look at here. Look at that. This is what I mean by visual, guys. So Sam, what do you do in the side area? What I want to do in the side area, I want to over direct back. So here's a good thing to always remember. When you want to maintain length, pull away from where you want that length to live. So if I want length in the front, I'm going to move to the back. That's making the hair in the front travel further to get to the cutting edge. So it's leaving me more length. So simply just over direct back. Remember, 3 movements that we all work with. Call them whatever you want. We elevate it up and down, as I'm doing now. We over direct it side to side, which I'm doing now. And we have a finger or shear angle. In this particular case, because I'm working with the extensions and I'm coming through, I'm working with a shear angle. Look how flat my shear angle is. The flatter it is, the softer this is going to be. And once again, what are we doing? Elevating. That's correct. We elevate as we work. Okay. See how I run my hand through? Feels pretty good. I'm going to go back into this one area one more time. Flat. Nice. Okay, now I'm going to come back to the opposite side. And once again, let's just give you the visual difference. Look at this move. Okay, look at that. Give you a little bit more of a square view on this. Look at this move. See this, how loose that is right here, this area? Look how heavy that area is. So what's the one thing I need to do here? To maintain length in the opposite direction, what do I need to do? Over-direct it back. That's absolutely right. Over-direct back. Okay, look how I keep everything flat vertically, looking to see where my edge is. There it is there. Get a visual guide, guys, not so much a technical guide. Excellent. All right, now the next step we're going to go into, once we've got a visual blend on that top, now we're going to go into the ends. And the ends are critical. Watch what I'm going to do on this. I'm going to take a bigger section working with my index and thumb. I'm going to start in the center back. I'm going to comb this out vertically, but then watch what I'm going to do. Once I have this vertical, place the comb standing vertical, turn it horizontal. Now when you turn it horizontal, now I can start to see where I need to release a little bit more length. Now I want this length to be a little bit more, I want this edge to be a little bit more aggressive in regards to the edge. So I'm going to change my tool and I'm going to go to a razor. Okay? Now don't panic. Okay? I'm going to hold the razor just like I would write my name. Now what I'm going to do is I want to just slice into this. So see, I'm just coming in. So I'm point cutting now with a razor just to give me, once again, a soft edge on that. And this is what makes it look real. The one thing I don't want it to do is I don't want it to be so heavy from about maybe past mid-shaft to the ends. So it's just a great way to diffuse the edge, if you will, even more. Okay, once again, watch how I'll come in vertically with the comb. Okay, vertically. Now watch me rotate the comb horizontally. Now bring your hand in here. See, this is allowing me to see what's the top doing, because here's the top. Okay, when I turn this, here's the top. Read the density, there's the middle, and here's the underneath. So you see, that's telling me I need to be a little bit more aggressive in that middle. So now watch, slow motion. Let's put that camera on slow motion, Jesse. Look at the angle of the razor. See how it comes across that? What I don't want to do is go too straight up and down. I want to take a little bit more separation, create a little bit more negative space, if you will. Once again, like I'm writing my name. Now watch, just rotate and flick, rotate and flick. Be aware of the angle, just like you were with that scissor angle. And look where I focused. I focused primarily in that center, release. See how that's looking more believable, guys? That's the idea. Make this look real. Don't make it look false. Make this look as real as possible. Okay? Once again, back to the comb, index and thumb. Okay? Once I'm here, look at me go vertical. Now rotate the comb horizontal, come back in. Look how much I have. Okay? That's the top, here's her underneath. See how that's how it sits. So what I'm reading is this middle. I find that a lot of the extensions, when we do our placement, a lot of it is in the middle area. So you need to be a little bit more aggressive, and then remember, the shape of the head also affects that. Okay, so see, I'm just flicking through. People go, Sam, you're crazy. Call me whatever you want, guys, but it works. And I highly recommend this. Challenge yourselves behind the chair. Challenge yourselves to do things in a different way. Challenge yourself to discover things. I don't know about you, but when I discover things and then I try it and it works, I'm like enthused. There's a sense of enthusiasm. I want you to understand there's danger in the comfort zone. Get out of that comfort zone. Stay in the comfort zone with one foot, but have the other foot outside of the comfort zone. Sam, what do you mean? That one foot that's in your comfort zone, that's your foot that has all the fundamentals, the foundations, your principles. The foot that's outside of it, that's your foot that goes in and really starts to explore and discover things. That's what I'm talking about. So hold on to your beliefs, but challenge your beliefs is what I'm saying. All right, this is awesome. Okay, remember, see how real that's looking? Sam, do you find that when you cut like this, it requires a little more time? Yes. Remember what I said. Feel does require time because you sometimes could be cutting the same section twice. But that's what's feel. But I got to tell you, I love cutting by feel. Just be aware of your time. I think in today, it's maximum results with minimum effort. Simplicity is today's brilliance. And this is a great way to simplify these ends to get a beautiful, beautiful visual blend. Okay, now, last thing I'm going to do for you. I want a little bit of volume in this area. So I want to have some volume in that area. Now when you take a look at this, look at the length that I have. Although the edges are very diffuse. But I want to give this some support. So I'm going to primarily work with her hair. So I'm going to take a horizontal section across this. Okay, that's her hair. Okay, now watch what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to take a blending shear. This is a reversible blender. So I'm going to take the blunt blade, place it on the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to give you a top view of this also. So the idea, once again, is I like to read it. See how I'm reading that hair? Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to weave with a shear. So I weave it. Now I'm going to close and just backstroke that. Close and backstroke. By backstroking on that, it's moving this hair to different positions. So I'm never cutting on the same line. Excuse me, I'm cutting on the same spot, but it's never the same line. Watch how diffused this is going to be. Notice how I comb this out vertically. I'm not combing it out horizontally. That's just going to put the tangle in more. Turn your comb vertically and comb this out. Now this is a great way to teach the client. Look how easy that came out. Great way to teach the clients to handle their back combing. Okay, now watch this. You can just tell now when she hits this with a round brush or hits this with her hand. I want you to just watch. Take a look at the volume I'm getting. And that's just because you're making this area just lighter so it gets that volume. Okay, now last thing I want to do is I'm going to put some integrity into it. So I want to put some integrity into it. What do you mean, Sam? Well, what I mean by integrity is last thing you want to do is pick this up, lift up. Okay, and you have to remember what you did was you took a lot of weight out. So what I want to do is I'm coming through and I'm looking to see, are there any ends that I feel are out of place? So when I look at this section here looks too long compared to what I have. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to come in and watch how I'll just come in and just soften things. Okay, and a lot of times the way I like to soften these things is this. Come out to these ends, weave your shear like a highlight, and now just back cut that. It's the details in the details now that I'm looking for. You know, where do I see weight? Where do I feel weight? Where does it feel like I don't have the movement or the texture that I'm looking for? Okay, now watch. When I bring this to the front, look, see how that has some movement to it? Okay, there. So now look at, see, now before if I did this with my hands, it would just really collapse. But now there's a lot of texture and movement into that. All right, so let's recap what we did. What we did first, guys, was we started on our perimeter edge. And what I introduced you to was the concept of cross-hatching. So that what you get is you get a little bit more of a lived-in perimeter edge. And that's simply cutting a diagonal line one direction into about 1 inch of length or 2 inches of length, depending on how much you want to take off. Go diagonal, turn it over, and go diagonal the opposite way. When you go diagonal the opposite way, excuse my back, when you go diagonal the opposite way, you're going to get that edge that looks like it was cut about 2-3 weeks ago. Once we've got the length, now we go in the side area. So examine where does her hair live in the top and where is that side area. She had maybe a little bit of a pointness there, so I just went in and I just kind of blended that through, and that's important, guys, in terms of that. So you just get a degree of softness. So use their starting point if they have an existing length. If not, go in and introduce them to it where you want to start it. Remember, this is normally, in most cases, this is their hair. So you really got to be aware where it lives. Once we went to the side area, we went in for our blend. And this is a top visual blend. Notice that there's steps to this, guys. Not just a matter of picking up hair and going where you want. So we went into for our visual blend. Notice how you don't see any lines. I don't want any visual lines from my extensions, nor do I want any visual hard lines from the action of the blades of cutting itself. Okay? The way you're going to determine that is just tickle it, and you can just start to see that. So visual blend on top, basically going through, using your fingers, taking those vertical sections, keeping the shear angle flat, but elevating that hair as you cut it so you maintain that perimeter edge that you created. Once you've gone through and you've worked with that blend, now it comes back to the ends, but that's vertically. I'm not talking about the ends on the perimeter length. Now I'm talking about taking her hair, the extensions that live in between her hair and the extensions, and getting a vertical blend into that. And I chose to go in and use a razor and just point cut with a razor. Great technique to work with. Okay? Once we've got that, then you go into your top and your crown area. In that top and crown area, then you're basically going in. What I did was I just weaved a shear, blending shear shear through this just to give me a little bit more volume in that crown area. So that's the technical side of the haircut. Now it's time to go in and explore the finishing side of the haircut. All right, now let's talk and let's focus about the finishing. You know as well as I do, a lot of times with extensions, we want to put some movement into it, whether it's natural movement from the extension itself or their natural movement, but irons really come into play. So I'm going to work with some irons and show you some really cool ways to achieve volume, to create texture, to create movement. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work with a Marcel iron. Now you can use spring activated or Marcel, whatever comfortable in your hand. But be sure to manipulate it in a really good way where we're not getting such a dated type of movement and texture. Watch what I mean. I want this particular section here to move back. But what I want to do, the means to creating today's ends is leave them straight. So it's how we work with an iron now. It's not the traditional way that we work. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to turn my finger diagonal, bring the iron from behind, catch, and immediately start to roll. Now that's a half roll that I did right there. So look where I'm rolling it to. This is about where I want that movement to sit. Now watch this. I'm going to take the iron, point it towards the head, roll out, and now go to another half roll. See how that's a half roll? And I'm just going to camp there. Now watch what I'm going to do. Now I'm just going to slide the iron down and out. So the means to creating today's ends is leaving these straight, but you can see the action of the texture I'm getting inside. Now if I feel, well, I want a little bit more of a bend there, just come back, relift, come through, compress, and just get the amount of bend that you want. But watch what I'm going to do. Watch that twist. See how I twist? Two things are going to happen. That's going to cool down like this and guarantee that's going to hold. Now watch the ends. Now I just slide out of those ends, giving them a little bit of movement. Now I'm working with vertical sections, okay? And I'm working with vertical sections, and the size of the section will determine the amount of control you have. Sam, what do you mean control? The longevity of the wave or curl or the texture that you're placing in. So my sections are probably, if we go profile view, you can see my sections are probably about 1 inch in terms of width. Okay? Once again, base that on density and in terms of longevity. You could also divide the head off horizontally. So you're working with the top, iron the top, and then iron the underneath. I want a very casual, relaxed, lived-in, organic feel in my finish. Once again, product is not an option, it is a necessity. Did you hear me there? Product is not an option, it's a necessity. So I want you to really protect your extensions and I want you to protect your hair. So use a thermal heat protector. That's so important. Sam, I tend to overuse it. One of the key things to use is any hairspray that you're working with, use the length of the can to determine how far you spray away. A lot of times where a client doesn't like a hairspray is they're too close, it's too sticky. So give them the hint of just using the can, that will help to determine the distance. Remember my friends, product is not an option, it is a necessity. If you don't like retail, I suggest you begin to like retail. It's so important. Why? Retail is part of the education process. I want you to think tell versus sell. It's not about making the sell, it's about educating the client. When you educate the client, the sell will follow. Okay, watch again. Once I'm here, make sure you're always combing that through. Okay, once again, watch the iron. It's going to come from behind. Watch how I lay it flat. See how I've laid it at diagonal? Immediately start to roll so that I'm not going to get any ridge marks from my iron. Now watch. Once I'm here, watch. That's just a half roll. Key. Once you're here, now point the barrel towards the head, roll out of that, and go to another half roll. Okay, now look at, see how that's twisted? You're going to get a twist here. With that twist, that's going to guarantee that that's going to lock into the curl that I'm placing in. Now I slide out, look at, see how I slide out? Now watch me go to a half roll. Point in, slide out, and then once you get going, you will get your rhythm in terms of how this technique works. Okay, now watch me slide out towards the ends. So I'm giving those ends some movement, but I'm not giving that intense movement like I am towards the middle area and the top area. Okay? Now if I want a little bit more volume up here, then that iron is being placed a little bit more towards the top of the head. Now this is where it gets tricky. So here, look at the height of this, from the nape area to the top of the head. So my suggestion is this area is where you want to divide it in half. So now I'm going to use horizontal. I'm going to work where I see the extensions, come through, and mix it. So I want to pick up some of the extension and some of her hair. So that way, if you mix it, they're going to get a little bit more of a blend into it. Now watch. Now I'm going the opposite way. When I want something lived in, what I don't want to do is do things the exact same way. It's just going to be too symmetrical. So I want things to kind of bump into each other. So one curl went back, now one's going forward. Once I have the amount of tenths of heat, measure your heat. How do you measure the heat, Sam? I don't measure the heat over the barrel, I measure it over the lip. Because if it's definitely hot outside here, the cake is definitely baked inside. Now watch, point the barrel once again, roll out, half a turn. See, I come in half and I rotate. Camp. Feel the heat. My finger's getting hot. My finger's extremely hot. Time to move on. Okay, and another half roll. Okay, so I really think, guys, Sam, I'm not good with Marcel. Do you have any helpful hints in terms of how I can get good with a Marcel? Yes. First of all, purchase one. Next thing is work with it in cold, off. Work with it off. Don't work with it on. You want to work with it off. Now that was forward. Look at the underneath. I'm going to take the underneath and I'm going to go simply back. And once again, I'm mixing the texture. I mix with her hair and with the extension itself. Okay, once I'm here, roll, half roll, camp, feel. I find if there's any mistake I make, I find that what I do is I will get too anxious and I won't let the heat work for me. Heat is your best friend as long as you are in control. Don't you dare be like that little girl on YouTube. Count to 20 and then take it away. Watch what'll happen, guys. Remember, heat is our best friend, but you control heat. Okay? And you can just see the type of texture I'm getting on that. And then when we go through how you brush this out is really important. You'll see how we do that. Once again, divide it on half. And I want to take some of that extension. See, I'm just taking some of the extension. Mix it up. Mix it up. Get that visual blend. Okay, this one I'm going to look how I just simply, by laying the iron flat, slightly at a diagonal, it over directs that hair forward. And then I just give it my half roll. Half roll out. See, I just come out, half roll. Allow it to heat. Always measuring. Okay, now watch how I have, see, I'm just working in control. Now I've got one more underneath, some of her hair from the nape area, and then the extension. Okay, I'm going to take this one forward. And I think in order to create that organic kind of feel, almost like they did it themselves with a curling iron, you really got to relax, guys. I mean, this is not how I was taught to use a curling iron. But things change in the way that you use it. It's about the visual end result. And we've discovered, you know, working with our irons in different ways gives us different undulation, gives us different movement. And it's important, guys, to discover that. I don't know about you, but I want to be able to tell a guest, tell a client what's happening before they tell me what's happening. I think it's so important, guys. Always, always prescribing and recommending. Okay? Now, that's half that head. So I'm going to stop here and watch how we're going to finish it. Now, watch what I'm going to do on this side. I want to create something a little bit more relaxed. So I'm going to create more of a lazy type of curl. And it's really interesting working with the Marcel or a spring-activated iron. So watch what I'm going to do in terms of how I'm going to be turning the iron in different directions. So I'm going to take a section starting in the front. Once again, working with a thermal heat protector, in this particular case, Iron Shape 11 by Redken. Not an option, a necessity. Okay, now watch the barrel of the iron. Now I'm going to bring the barrel in front. Look at the barrel in front. I'm going to come through, I'm going to wrap, and then I'm going to close. And as I close, I rotate that iron. Okay, now watch what I'm going to do. Once I'm there and I've camped out, take that out. Now take the barrel. Now look at the barrel. It's in the back. Okay, and now come through and roll. Okay, so now here's the idea. See how lazy that is? You're getting a curl, but it's very lazy. It kind of plays tricks with your eyes. That comes back, this goes forward. And it's just simply coming through and the way that you're working with an iron. And take random sections. Don't be so methodical about this. Okay, once again, heat protector, okay? Where you start is where that undulation is going to begin. So I'm going to try and start basically in the same spot. So I roll, flat wrap that, okay? Hold for a moment or two. Okay, now watch me just slide that iron out. Now I'm going to come back in right where I left off. See how I close and I go the opposite way. Guide it with your hand. See my left hand guiding that? Now watch what I'm going to do once I'm here. Notice how I'm not disturbing what we just did. Come back out and the opposite way. Okay, see how lazy that is compared to that opposite side. So if someone, what I want to do is, especially with these extensions, I find that if you have more movement into it, you're getting really nice visual blend to it. And most of these girls that have extension, they want some kind of movement or some kind of volume. Here's a great way to get a casual sense of movement if they don't want a large sense of volume. Once again, flat wrap forward. Notice how I rotated that just a half turn so that I don't get any ridge. Notice how I just keep wrapping that around the barrel. Don't pull it back against that. You're going to get a ridge. Okay, once I'm here, watch the iron. And I love this just for a nice sense of a relaxed kind of movement to it. It's almost like give it a natural kind of feel, if you will. Okay. So I'm always starting, taking on that top and then work my way to the bottom. You could start underneath and clip it on the top and work underneath. Flat wrap, let that heat up. Notice how I'm holding the excess length. Once I'm there, come back, opposite direction. Slide it into the lip. See how I slid that into the lip? And notice when I'm here, I am not pulling down with the iron to pull down what we've created here. So I want to lift up against gravity to make sure that cools down in a state of where I want it. Turn and just rotate. Okay. Continuing to work through. Notice how relaxed this is. This is called a lazy curl. And once again, just working with the irons in different ways. Most recently, I have to say that I have been picking up irons a lot. And it's just what we've been doing with them in terms of creating that organic lived-in look. Notice how I turn, see? So the key thing to remember with this technique, barrel in front, barrel in back, barrel in front, barrel in back. With each little half rotation, you're moving that barrel. Sam, do you find yourself working with a flat iron to create some of these looks? Yes. I think a flat iron is the most versatile tool now. I love to say to clients, this is the iron you want to travel with. And the reason being, it gives you the opportunity, the versatility to wear your hair straight or to actually put some bend into it and some wave and curl into it. So really important to understand that I think a flat iron, the sleeker from Sam V, is something every client should have and travel with if you have a client that travels a lot. Okay. Very casual, guys. See how casual that is? And random sections. Pick up some of the extensions, some of her hair. It's so important. Anytime I pick up an iron, if you notice that, both on the right side and the left side, being aware, where does that hair live and what you're picking up is so important. If I go in and just separate her hair from the extensions, you're going to have a difference in terms of balance and the way that that hair explodes. Let's face it, it may be human hair, but it's quite different the way it lives on the head. See, I just picked that in. See, I just wrap it around that barrel just to give it some movement, but I wasn't concerned about it really having the curl. A phrase I love to use is the means to creating today's ends is keeping them straight. To me, it seems to be a little bit more fresh. Very seldom do I find myself curling the entire head. It's just too dated. I really believe, my friends, the past is where we learn and the future is where we apply it. So I love reaching back to the past. What do you mean, Sam? Well, right now, there's a big Brigitte Bardot happening. Everybody's talking about Brigitte Bardot. And the reason being, it's that angle in the front, it's her fringe, her bangs, in terms of how she would wear her bangs, with just a small little piece coming down, and with that curtain fringe. So at the past, you know, when you think about a curtain fringe reminds me of Farrah Fawcett. That's who it reminds me of. And everybody thinks it's so new and so fresh. But the past is where we learn, the future is where we apply it. But when things come back, they come back in a little bit of a different way. They don't come back that same way. So it's like fashion. Fashion is a repetition of the old into the new. That's all fashion is. But when it makes its way back, it's got a freshness to it because they've done something different to it. Working Fashion Week in New York has allowed me to really learn that when a decade becomes 20 years old, it becomes fashionable again. So think about that. That's where these designers, I said, where do you get your inspiration? They said, Sam, it's easy. You follow the decades. When it's 20 years old, eventually it's going to make its way back. And as I started realizing that, I started seeing that that's so true, that that's exactly what happens. So right now, when you think about it, it's what are we in, 2021? It's about what was happening in 2010. Can you imagine what was happening in 2010? Okay, being aware. And look, I'm just getting a little bit more kind of loose with it. Okay, one more section. And then what I want you to do is look at the difference between her right side and her left. Once again, just introducing you to another technique, a lazy curl, barrel in front, barrel in back, barrel in front, barrel in back, simply alternating the way that you're creating the undulation in the direction it goes. Notice how that doesn't want to reach to the lip, just simply use your fingers. And release. Let's give that just a little bit more. Look how casual it looks. That's what I'm looking for. All right, my friends, we've gotten to the finished look on Kaya, my guest. What's so important is that haircut. Remember, cut the extensions, cut the hair with intent and purpose. What do you mean by that, Sam? It's all about the marriage of that natural hair and the extension. That's what's going to give it that visual impact. It's about blending, but at the same time, be technical. I shared some techniques with you in regards to the cutting. Embrace those techniques and use them behind the chair. It's going to simplify your work. Simplicity is today's brilliance, my friends. And what's so important is the tools that you're working with. Take a look at this particular tool. Here's a 2-in-1 Marcel. Simply pressing a button and sliding enough, you now have a wand. So it's so important to understand how your tools work aside from the fabric. When you take the hair and the fabric of an extension and you bring them together, that's what's going to give you the strength of the season. My friends, I want to thank you so much for watching. On behalf of Extend, it's all about doing things with intent and purpose. And remember, an investment in education is an investment in your future. Thanks so much for watching.